One of the few people who actually understands why coal is important and how it relates to the climate change hysteria, and is geologist and earth scientist Ian Plimer. I'm delighted to say he's going to join me now because he's an expert on this greenwashing of the world. Ian, thanks for your time. Let me just start with this. The perils of carbon dioxide, we're continually told, are destroying the planet. And yet I'm going to put up this graphic which shows trees depend on carbon dioxide to grow. They then emit oxygen, which humans inhale and exhale. We exhale carbon dioxide, of course, which fuels the cycle. Is the green dream really an anti-human dream?
Well, I think it's far worse than that, Cory. It is anti-scientific, it's anti-human, and it's hypocritical. We have carbon dioxide floating around the planet. It's in the atmosphere, it's in rocks, it's in the oceans, but it is plant food. And without carbon dioxide, we have no plants, and with no plants, we have no animals. We breathe out carbon dioxide, and if the Greens really object to carbon dioxide, there's a simple solution: drop dead. Because without coal, we have no dole. It's really simple. It keeps the economy going. And we now have two nations with more than 1 billion people that are growing very quickly because of coal. Coal has brought billions of people out of poverty. It did it in the Western world in the industrialisation over 100 years or so. It is now doing it in East Asia. And if Greens object to coal, they are objecting to billions of people getting out of poverty. They're objecting to 2 million people who every year die because they have to cook and heat inside their houses using dung or using twigs. These people die of respiratory diseases. So clearly the Greens are supporting those sort of deaths. The Greens are actively killing people. They know they're doing it. You can do a 20-second search on the smartphone to get the statistics. And it's really simple. China has 3,500...
I will go back to that in a second, but I can see the bumper sticker now. Without coal, there is no dole, and I tell you, I'll be buying one and putting it on my car. But these 5 countries that I mentioned, and we're going to come to China in a second because that's where you were headed. Those 5 countries, 42% of global manufacturing takes place there. They know they cannot manufacture the things that we want and demand without cheap and reliable electricity. That is what coal is providing. Why aren't they going to wind and solar power?
Well, they're not going to go to solar and they're not going to go to wind because it's unreliable and it's inefficient and it's too expensive. We can only have wind and solar because it's subsidised, and wind energy doesn't run on wind. It runs on subsidies. This is the way it works in this country. It's so much so that we are putting our coal-fired electricity generators out of business. We have taken ourselves from cheap, reliable energy producers to very expensive energy producers, and hence we cannot compete in the manufacturing market. Europe has done the same, which is why they now want to impose carbon tariffs. Well,
the ABC, though, Ian, and hardly the authority in this space, because they continually try and mount a scare campaign in favour of radical climate change. But they're saying now that Australians are 3 times more worried about climate change than COVID-19. I have some doubts about that. I'll ask for your opinion on it. But really, aren't we doing ourselves a huge disservice to be spending $1 billion a year for a cheerleader to put Australia effectively out of the manufacturing business?
Well, there's a couple of points here. Firstly, the ABC runs on coal-fired power. About 80% of the ABC to transmit this fake news comes from coal. So if that were true, we should only listen to 1 out of 5 words that the ABC transmit to us. Second thing is that the ABC surveys, I very much doubt. The third thing is that they are funded by people who actually have a business, who actually manufacture, who have a farm, or who have a mine. They pay the ABC. The ABC should not be committing economic terrorism. They should be doing exactly what they should be doing, and that is supporting this country's economic growth. Carbon dioxide is plant food. No one has ever shown in the history of time that carbon dioxide drives global warming. The opposite has been shown, but it's never been shown. So why continue with these falsehoods?
Yeah, there is so much misinformation and so many falsehoods out there. And I always think that when people are prepared to mislead and not tell the truth, it means they have a very weak argument, and yet they seem to get away with it. I mean, just this week, the renewables lobby lined up against a proposal from the Energy Security Board, which was to basically subsidise coal and gas-fired power stations so that we could be guaranteed future capacity, meaning future electricity. And let me read you a quote from the CEO of this clean energy consortium called Powering Australian Renewables. He says, and I quote, "The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow, there will be renewable doubts." Now, doesn't that quote highlight precisely why we need to secure supply? But if the boss of this renewables outfit is admitting it, that renewables are going to fail, what hope do we have?
Well, there's a place for wind, and that's on an isolated outback station. There's a place for solar, and that might be a telephone box in the middle of Whoop Whoop. But you cannot run an industrial society on wind and solar. You cannot run the fundamental driver of the economy, and that's cheap energy, on subsidies. It doesn't work, and it will not work. We have thousands of years of coal in this country, thousands of years of uranium. We are basically the useful idiots of China who sell us the solar facilities, who sell us the wind facilities. And then, of course, we've got to dispose of this toxic material. So we are the useful idiots, and the Greens are playing the Chinese game. And that is not in the interests of this country.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And these people who are doing a disservice to Australia have had too much influence in the public square, and it's really, we've just got to continue to push back, COVID or no COVID. Ian Plimer, you've never taken your eye off this ball. I really appreciate you joining me on Bernardi tonight. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.